Hey everybody, this is Donna Knapp, and I'm joined today by my good friend Mike Cardinal. Hey Mike.
Hey Donna, thanks for having me back.
So today Mike and I are going to talk about how to study when you're taking an exam that uses Bloom's taxonomy. A lot of the foundational level exams that you might be taking, DevOps Foundation, ITIL Foundation, often the syllabus is based on Bloom's taxonomy, and at the foundation level, very often the exam focuses on Bloom 1 and Bloom 2. So Mike, why should we care about Bloom's taxonomy?
Well, we should care about Bloom's taxonomy because it's the key to all learning and all mastery, and allows you to move really from knowing nothing or a base knowledge all the way up through mastery, and really allows a learner to become more successful at their learning, more successful on their assessments, and really retain information much longer, much better.
Awesome. And I think it's important to make that point that these foundation level exams, you're learning basic terms, you're learning basic concepts. And if it's like not knowing your ABCs and then thinking you'll be able to read a book. You've got to establish that foundational level knowledge in order to move on to mastery. So here's Benjamin Bloom's smiling face. And I love this quote from Bloom. He says, creativity follows mastery. So mastery of skills is the first priority for young talent, or as we like to say, Mike, the young at heart, right?
Yep, that's us, young at heart.
So we're going to focus on Bloom 1 and Bloom 2 questions. So Mike, what's the characteristic of a Bloom 1 question?
So the key to a Bloom 1 question is really what's known as the keyword. So Benjamin Bloom put together a list of keywords that are associated with each of the levels of learning. And what he was trying to do is really at the lower levels focus on the basic foundational definition or explanation of a term. And where most people think a word is just the word or the term and a definition, it really has a third part context. And what Bloom did was really split those three considerations up into Bloom 1 and Bloom 2. So Bloom 1 really is about understanding the term and the definition, and that's that basic dictionary definition. And the keywords here are things like what, how, where, when, which, those kind of words. And it's really focusing on, do you know the term and do you know the definition? And it's the definition as presented in your learner manual, as presented in the materials, whether that be ITIL or DevOps or Agile or whatever you're learning. So the key here in a question like what is the definition of warranty is really focusing on, do you know the term? Do you know the definition? It's objective, it's what it is what it is. You can't really argue or debate with the definition of warranty, it is. The same with which role submits service requests. The idea here is not focusing on service requests, but understanding what is a role and what does a role consist of and what does it do. So it's really focusing on definitional concepts, not on context.
And it's focusing on which roles are presented in the course that you're taking, and or what definition is presented in the course you're taking. We all have these common definitions of things, or maybe you have a definition for something in your organization, but the exam that you're taking is based on the class you're taking, and so you need to rely on the learner manual for that class for those concepts and definitions.
Absolutely.
So moving on to Bloom 2, what are the characteristics of Bloom 2 questions?
So where Bloom 1 really focused on the term itself and the definition, Bloom 2 is really focusing on the context of that term and that definition. It's really all three parts or all three considerations that make up the full explanation or usage of a term. So in the first sentence, the keyword here is uses, and that term is really looking for the context of the word service, not the definition of the word service. So when would you use service? How would you use service in the right context? The second one is a great example because not only does it give you that keyword example, but it gives you the context that they're looking for. So they're presenting the context of a service provider describing a package that includes the laptop, software, etc. And they're really looking for how that context applies. And in this case, what is that? What is this package an example of? They're not looking for you to define a package. They're looking for that context in which that package is used. So it's really adding in that third element. And that's really the real key differentiator here between Bloom 1 and Bloom 2, is that use of context versus the term and definition.
And I think that's where it's so important to stay engaged in class. The Bloom 1 questions, you can study the materials, maybe you can memorize the terms. The ability to answer Bloom 2 questions really comes from hearing examples in class or coming up with your own examples in terms of how you would describe this concept to someone else, right, Mike?
Yeah, and that's a great way to study, is think about the examples, pay attention in class. The teacher's not just trying to fill space there, they're really trying to set that context of the term. So using those examples, going back over them, hopefully you've taken some notes on those, or even thinking about examples for yourself that you might be able to explain to someone else who doesn't know a context, or doesn't know a class, doesn't know ITIL, doesn't know DevOps. And if you can successfully explain that term using the term, the definition, and the context, then you'll be successful.
Got it. But the plot thickens a little bit, right, Mike?
Yes, it does. So here's the problem with Bloom. Bloom reuses terms. So you'll see here, you've got this keyword identify. And it's really not the term itself that's important. It's what is the question really asking you to discover? In the first question, the word identify is really trying to get to a term or a definition. In this case, what is the definition of a service, right? A service, the means of delivering value, etc. So the key here is, do you know the basic definition? Is it memorized? Is it objective in your mind? The second use of the word identifies in the Bloom 2 question is really trying to get to the context, not the definition. So in this case, which practice identifies metrics that reflect the customer's experience of a service. It's not asking you to define a practice. It's not identifying or defining a metric. It's trying to place a particular practice in a context. And that's really what we're trying to see is, can you take that term and use it in a sentence, right? So this is your typical use the term in a sentence, and that's the context.
So it's important to understand when you're looking at a course, what topic areas are going to be examined at a Bloom 1 level, which are going to be examined at a Bloom 2 level. That will influence how you study. Those Bloom 2 questions, you want to have a broader understanding of the concept than just the simple definition.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're going on to a higher level course, it's really important that you have this differentiation between Bloom 1 and Bloom 2 in your mind, because levels 3 through 6 assume you know the term, definition, and context of that word or of that concept. If you don't have these two down, you're going to have difficulty later on. You're going to have difficulty applying this in a real world situation. So it's very important that you kind of understand the difference, and that is also important for passing your exams.
So let's give some last little exam taking tips.
Sounds great.
These tips would apply to any exam, whether you're taking, again, an ITIL exam or a DevOps exam. The first thing is to prepare. Put time on your calendar for pre-class preparations. Almost every class will provide you some type of a pre-read resource. And especially with exams where there's Bloom 1 type questions, the more often you see those terms and concepts, the more familiar you're going to become with them. And, you know, Mike, we were talking about this. How do you make sure stuff gets done? You put it on your calendar.
Yeah, put it on the calendar. Block some time off.
So not just blocking out the 2 days or however many days for your class, but a few days before that, put a block of time on your calendar to actually complete your pre-class preparations. It will serve you very, very well when you go into class. And then participate in class. Again, a key to those Bloom 2 questions is to make sure that you understand, that you are listening as those examples are provided. You're looking for that context relative to the different concepts that are being covered in your class. And
Absolutely. Yep.
right? And we know statistically the most successful people are people who take the exam within 10 days after class. So if you do your pre-class work, if you stay engaged in class, if you study as you go, you're going to feel really confident going in and taking your exam within a relatively short period of time after your class. And last tips, assess, study, and review. So any assessment tools that are provided to you, whether they be study aids, sample exams, utilize those, create your own study aids based on your learning style, and study. And one of the points that you shared, Mike, was to find a comfortable place.
Yeah, make it a place that's going to work for you. And the idea is to remove distractions more than anything. But if you like music, play a little bit of music. Most people find music without words is a little better, but some people like music. The key thing again, it's comfortable for you. You can really concentrate and focus, right?
Right. And focus your efforts. So if you've done your assessment activities, it's likely you've identified some gaps. So focus on filling those gaps. And then also look at the syllabus for the course. Very often a syllabus will have a max number of questions per topic area. So if you see a section where there are, a significant number of questions, then make sure that you focus accordingly on that particular area. And then right before you take your exam, take that, little bit of time to just take that deep breath, relax, maybe make one quick pass through your terms and concepts through your reference card if you've been provided one. So do that last little review, and then again, have confidence in your abilities. So, Mike, the question we always get asked, what's the right answer?
Yeah. The right answer is the one that answers the question. And as Don always says, the question is the part with the question mark. So focus on that Bloom 1, focus on that Bloom 2. Do you know what's being asked of you? And then apply that to the answers.
Awesome. And remember to look for those answers that reflect the content as they were provided in your learner manual. So if you want some more tips and tricks on how to study for your Bloom 1 or 2 exam, there's a link provided at the bottom of the screen for you. We hope you check out our blog. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks. Good luck.